Imagine paying more than $3 million for a car. Not a mansion. Not a private jet. Just one car. At that price, you'd expect something extraordinary. But here's what's even more surprising. Owning a Bugatti doesn't stop after you buy it. A single set of tires can cost tens of thousands of dollars. The wheels are recommended for replacement after only a few tire changes. The engine contains more cylinders than most family cars have pistons. And every Bugatti is assembled almost entirely by hand. It sounds unbelievable. But none of those things truly explain why Bugatti is so expensive. Because plenty of supercars are fast. Many are handmade. Some are even rarer. So why does Bugatti sit in a category almost entirely by itself? The answer isn't hidden in the price tag. It's hidden in an obsession. An obsession with building a car that ignores almost every rule of modern manufacturing. To understand Bugatti, you first have to forget everything you know about ordinary cars. Most automakers begin with a simple question. How can we build a great car at the lowest possible cost? Bugatti asks a completely different question. What if cost didn't matter? That single idea changes everything. Imagine telling a team of engineers that their only goal is perfection, not efficiency, not affordability, not mass production, just perfection. That philosophy is why a Bugatti is less like a product and more like an engineering experiment that somehow received permission to drive on public roads. Most luxury brands balance performance, comfort, and cost. Bugatti refuses to compromise. If a component needs to be redesigned to gain even a tiny improvement, it often is. If a material performs better but costs significantly more, Bugatti is willing to use it. This mindset creates machines that push the limits of engineering, but it also pushes the limits of price. And nowhere is that philosophy more obvious than under the hood. For decades, the heart of Bugatti has been one of the most extraordinary engines ever installed in a production car. Not a V8, not a V10, not even a V12, a W16. 16 cylinders working together with 4 turbochargers. At first glance, it sounds like overkill. Because it is. Modern supercars can produce astonishing performance using much smaller engines. Advances in hybrid technology have allowed manufacturers to achieve incredible speed with fewer cylinders and lower weight. So, why did Bugatti choose something so complicated? Because the goal was never simply to build a fast car. The goal was to build a car unlike anything the world had ever seen. Creating a double 16 engine wasn't as simple as adding more cylinders. Every additional component increased complexity. More cooling, more plumbing, more electronics, more engineering challenges. Every problem solved created another one waiting to be solved. Keeping 16 cylinders operating smoothly at extraordinary speeds required an entirely different level of precision. Heat became the enemy. Managing that heat demanded an elaborate cooling system with multiple radiators working together. The result was an engine that looked more like something designed for aerospace than for everyday transportation. And building something that complicated isn't cheap. In fact, many automotive engineers consider the W16 one of the most ambitious production engines ever created. But the engine is only part of the story. Because raw power is useless if the rest of the car can't survive it. Imagine trying to control more than 1,000 horsepower. At over 400 kilometers per hour, even the smallest mistake becomes dangerous. Air behaves differently. Heat builds faster. Tiny vibrations become serious engineering problems. Everything changes. That's why Bugatti couldn't simply borrow parts from another manufacturer. Nearly every major component had to be developed specifically for the car. The brakes, the suspension, the transmission, the aerodynamics, even the tires. Especially the tires. Most people never think about tires. They're just black circles connecting the car to the road. But for Bugatti, tires became one of the biggest engineering challenges of all. At extreme speeds, centrifugal forces become almost unimaginable. The faster a wheel spins, the greater the stress placed on every layer of rubber. A tire failure at those speeds wouldn't simply be inconvenient. It could be catastrophic. So Bugatti worked closely with Michelin to create tires unlike almost anything else on the market. These weren't ordinary performance tires. They were. Each tire goes through extensive testing before it's approved. And that testing costs money. A lot of money. Even after purchase, owners are encouraged to replace them long before most drivers would consider doing so. To many people, that seems excessive. To Bugatti, it's simply part of protecting a machine capable of extraordinary performance. This attention to detail extends far beyond the mechanical components. Open the door of a Bugatti and you'll notice something unusual. Very little feels mass-produced. The leather, the stitching, the aluminum, the exposed carbon fiber. Every surface reflects countless hours of craftsmanship. Many parts are finished by hand. Not because machines couldn't do the work, but because human hands can achieve a level of refinement that automation sometimes cannot. Each interior is built with the expectation that its owner isn't simply buying transportation. They're commissioning something personal, something unique. Something that almost no one else in the world will ever own. And that's where Bugatti begins to separate itself from nearly every other car company. Because it isn't really competing against Ferrari, or Lamborghini, or McLaren. It's competing against private jets, luxury yachts, rare watches, fine art, objects purchased not because people need them, but because they represent the highest level of human craftsmanship. And once you start looking at Bugatti through that lens, its extraordinary price begins to make a lot more sense. But even handcrafted interiors and remarkable engineering still don't fully explain the millions of dollars attached to every Bugatti. Because the most expensive part of every Bugatti is something you can never actually see. The most expensive PA isn't the engine. It's the years of. Before a Bugatti ever reaches its first customer, thousands of hours have already been invested in solving problems that most manufacturers forego. Take aerodynamics. At highway speeds, air is almost. At 250 miles per hour, it becomes a. Every curve on a Bugatti, the front splitter controls airflow. The massive rear diffuser reduces turbulence. The active rear wing constantly changes its angle depending on speed and braking. Nothing is there for decoration. Even a tiny change in airflow can affect stability when a car is traveling faster than many small aircraft during takeoff. That level of precision requires years of computer simulations, wind tunnel testing, and real-world validation. Every prototype represents millions of dollars in research. And unlike mass-market manufacturers, Bugatti can't spread those costs across hundreds of thousands of vehicles. Instead, they're divided among only a few hundred, which means every customer pays for a share of that engineering journey. But engineering is only half the equation. The other half is production. Walk into most modern car factories and you'll find robots everywhere. Thousands of machines working together with incredible speed. A new car rolls off the production line every few minutes. Bugatti is completely different. Its factory in Molsheim, France, feels more like a luxury workshop than an automotive plant. There are no endless conveyor belts. No race against the clock. Instead, small teams of highly skilled technicians assemble each car with extraordinary attention to detail. The process can take months. Every panel is carefully aligned. Every leather surface is inspected. Every carbon fiber component is examined under bright lighting to ensure there are no imperfections. Even after assembly, the work isn't finished. Each Bugatti goes through extensive quality inspections before leaving the factory. Because at this level, perfection isn't a marketing slogan. It's an expectation. And perfection is incredibly expensive. Then comes personalization. For most car buyers, choosing a vehicle means selecting a color and perhaps a few optional features. For Bugatti owners, almost everything can be customized. Paint colors, leather combinations, embroidery, carbon fiber finishes, metal trims, even details that only the owner may ever notice. Some customers spend months working with Bugatti designers to create a car that exists nowhere else on Earth. The result isn't just another Bugatti. It's their Bugatti. That exclusivity adds another layer of value. Because luxury has never been about owning what everyone else owns. It's about owning something almost no one else can. And Bugatti understands that better than almost any brand. The company deliberately builds only a limited number of cars each year. Not because demand is low, but because rarity is part of the product itself. Imagine if Bugatti suddenly produced 50,000 cars every year. Would people still stop and stare? Would collectors still wait years for a build slot? Probably not. Scarcity creates desire, and desire creates value. That's a lesson Bugatti has mastered for decades. Yet perhaps the biggest misconception about Bugatti is that it exists simply to make money. In reality, Bugatti has often been a showcase of what's possible. When the Bugatti Veyron debuted, many experts believed its goals were unrealistic. A production car with more than 1,000 horsepower, a top speed exceeding 400 kilometers per hour, luxury, reliability, and everyday drivability in the same package. It sounded impossible, but Bugatti built it anyway. The Veyron didn't just break speed records. It changed the automotive industry. It proved that engineering limits could be pushed far beyond what most people imagined. Its successor, the Chiron, continued that philosophy. More refined, more powerful, even more extraordinary. Then came the pursuit of the 300-mile-per-hour barrier. Reaching that milestone required far more than simply increasing engine power. Engineers redesigned bodywork, optimized aerodynamics, strengthened components, and tested relentlessly. Every improvement came at a cost measured not only in money, but in time, expertise, and relentless experimentation. This is why comparing a Bugatti to an ordinary luxury car misses the point entirely. It's like comparing a Formula One car to a family sedan, or comparing a museum masterpiece to a printed poster. Both may look beautiful, but one represents decades of accumulated knowledge, craftsmanship, and innovation. That difference is what people are paying for. Of course, owning a Bugatti also means joining one of the world's most exclusive communities. Owners are invited to private events, factory experiences, driving tours, exclusive previews of future models. The relationship doesn't end when the car is delivered. In many ways, that's when it begins. Bugatti isn't simply selling transportation. It's offering membership into a world that very few people will ever experience. And perhaps that's the greatest reason Bugatti commands such extraordinary prices. Because people aren't buying transportation. They aren't even buying performance. They're buying access to something almost impossible to replicate. A machine created without ordinary compromises. A symbol of engineering pushed to its absolute limit. A work of art built from metal, carbon fiber, leather, and obsession. So, what makes Bugatti so expensive? It's not just the W16 engine. It's not just the handcrafted interior. It's not just the record-breaking speed. It's the relentless pursuit of perfection. Every decision, every material, every test, every hour of craftsmanship exists because Bugatti refuses to ask, "How can we make this cheaper?" Instead, it asks a far more difficult question. What would happen if we built the greatest car we possibly could? The answer isn't just a hypercar. It's one of the rarest engineering achievements ever offered for sale. And that's why a Bugatti doesn't simply cost millions. To the people who build it, and to the people who dream of owning one, it's considered worth every dollar.